It's the joy of bullet journaling. On this episode of Play Saves the World, the ongoing conversation about the meaning of play for human flourishing. Hello! Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Play Saves the World. My name is Daniel Hilty.
And my name is Kevin Taylor.
And it makes us so happy that you have tuned in to listen to this episode. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be a part of this conversation. We hope that wherever you are, whatever time you are listening to this podcast, that you are well and healthy and safe and having a good day. And we are just overjoyed to get to spend a few moments with you. Kevin, so overjoyed to get to spend a few moments with you. How are you?
And it's just a prelude to Geekway. So
It's a prelude to Geekway. What is Geekway? Kevin, what is Geekway for our
Geekway
listeners?
is a board game convention, and it takes place in St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis,
The
Missouri.
Gateway to the West, as it was known, because it was where they stopped off before they went west
That's
to
right.
do stuff to California. Where were they going? Gold?
They were going to California to do turnip farming.
California turnips. They are delicious.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what they were doing.
Yes,
Yeah.
so the Gateway to the West in May becomes the Geekway to the West. About 5,000 attendees. Just a giant convention center with this wonderful hubbub of, and that's all the people talking and laughing and gaming. And very few people on phones because everyone is there to have a good time together.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
phones are great, but people are better than phones.
People are better than phones.
People
I
are
like
better than
that.
phones.
That
Yeah.
could be another one of our Play Save the World t-shirts. People are better than phones. I like
that
it.
would be.
I like it. We should do that.
Yeah.
And
You can hug a
it,
phone, but it's not as satisfying.
it is not. They are generally cold and
Fragile.
and they don't hold you back. And they, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And if someone calls you while you're hugging your phone, it feels like you're getting a little mild heart murmur. Yeah,
That's
which
right.
is just
He needs
panicky.
that.
Then you get all
Yeah.
panicky, and you decide not to hug your
Gen
phone.
X doesn't need that. We've already got heart challenges, so
We
need any
that's
murmurs.
forgetting of the age. We're
Yeah, that's
already
right,
panicky
that's
about our
right.
hearts. So, and so our listeners may or may not know this. So yeah, so you're in North Carolina. I'm in Missouri, and this is like one time of the year when we actually get to physically see each other and play games together, and along with a lot of other wonderful friends, and it's just great.
yeah. Daniel's got,
yeah.
of course, lovely friends because it's Daniel, and they have welcomed me in, and it's my second year, and I know folks there, which is awesome. I can just walk off the plane and have Insta friends, pretty much.
Oh.
And Daniel and I were friends way back in the '90s in college, and we only a couple of years ago got reconnected with board games, which is
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Power of games and play. It's been a
That's
joy
right,
to,
that's right.
to reconnect. Yeah. So what's you've been doing okay? Everything going
I'm doing
all right
okay.
in your
Doing
life?
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. Yeah.
And today we're excited. It was almost going to be a filler episode, but I think it's actually going to be really interesting. I'm going to talk a little bit about bullet journaling.
Yes. Tell us about this, Kevin. This has become
Okay.
an important part of your life.
It has. It really has. And it's one of those things that, you try something and then sometimes it sticks, sometimes it doesn't. But this one really stuck for me.
Yeah.
So, I think it's good to back up and ask why you want to journal itself.
Yeah.
And one of the things people often think of at journaling is you're going to, at night, write this long entry that's going to go on pages, and you get a hand cramp, and it feels kind of, I don't know, maybe forced as well as overwhelming. So this is going to remind you there are different ways to go about writing out your thoughts and things. And we might say, and we will ask, why would we journal at all? And I think a good answer to that, and this is what the bullet journal creator, writer Carol says, is you kind of want a mirror for your soul. You want some
I like
way to
that.
see what's going on. Yeah, and if we're not careful, we lead lives of, what's the line of that we have an unexamined life. And so you're not putting words onto how you're feeling or what's going on. You have no sense of it. You're just living in the moment, and you're not aware of, well, I'm actually, till you say you're overwhelmed, you don't know you're overwhelmed, or you're stressed, or you're happy. If you put a word on it, if you name it, then you tame it, as they say. So to verbalize it gives us a concrete notion of what's going on with your soul, and so you can see that
I like
in a
that.
word on a piece of paper, and it's there for posterity as well, which I want to circle back to.
Do you have a sense of? I mean, obviously, because of that, because journaling is such a good way to have a mirror of the soul, to have a sense of naming perhaps these movements, feelings within us that are unconscious until we name them, or subconscious until we name them. Do you have a sense of the heritage or the tradition of journaling in terms of a spiritual practice? Is it? I don't know this. We didn't talk about it beforehand either. But like, if it's been around a while, but because it seems like such a helpful spiritual tool.
I don't. Now, the Stoics, who are active like 300 BC to 300 AD, they talked about a daily meditation, which is a similar practice of saying, where did I lose my calm today? What can I learn from challenges of the day? So they were kind of doing that mentally.
Right.
And
Right.
Marcus Aurelius, who was the emperor, famously kept a journal, and we have it. His discourse is, meditations is what it's called.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But most people couldn't read or write; they didn't have paper, and it's good to be king, so he
That's a
did.
really good point.
So I suspect it probably didn't start till the 1800s, unless you happen to be a monk or a nun or someone in an elite bracket.
Right. That's a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
The the capacity, the resources needed to journal probably weren't available to the mass markets until the modern era. Yeah.
And you can
That's
do it mentally, but here's the catch. You won't remember what you were thinking 6 months later.
right.
The advantage
Right.
of some sort of paper or digital system is you can go back.
Right. Right.
Versus if you name it as you're going to sleep, which is great. And this isn't necessarily for everyone. It just depends on whether it's helpful to you. I guess everyone needs some type of mirroring. Let me say that. I think everyone needs a way to verbalize their life, but it doesn't have to be a journal. It could be just talking to a friend or a spouse or something on a regular basis, a therapist, pastor, rabbi, that kind of thing.
Toward the end of not having an unexamined life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It reminds me of I'm a uh, I'm a fan of the Trappist monk Thomas Merton, who wrote a lot. He died over 50 years ago now, but yeah, I think he's not the only one who said it, but I think at some point he said something like that he writes to find out what he believes, right? Or you write to, or was it C.S. Lewis or Brene Brown or somebody? Anyway,
Right, right.
many wise people probably said that you write to find out what you believe, which makes
Right.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't know till you have to put words on it, what's going
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
in your life in terms of busy or feelings or just what needs to get done. Reminder, pay the taxes or send in that important document. And if you trust yourself to remember, you may remember, but interestingly, if you commit to it somehow by writing it down as a to-do list, you're much more likely to get that done, which means you'll not spend time worrying about what you're forgetting, but you can get those things done. And then you have more time to play, right? If you're keeping track of your duties.
Is journaling a um, a, a corrective, a balance toward our propensity to not remember the past accurately, or to not to not
Yes.
remember our own interior life accurately. I mean, it seems to be like a theme I hear you talking about. In like, oh,
Yeah,
it's
no,
almost a
you're
corrective, right? Yeah.
it is a corrective because as we know now, we don't really remember things, we remember the memories of things. And
Hmm.
so the
Hmm.
story you tell about last year has probably subtly shifted. And it's not that it's not true, it's just you've highlighted certain things because you're remembering them a certain way. In that movie Inside Out, you get that idea, right? Like some memories are deep memories and stored, and other
Hmm.
memories are forgotten. So, yeah, you end up misremembering just naturally. And we, of
Hmm.
course, we are unstable beings in a lot of ways. We're always shifting and changing and evolving. And it's hard to remember what it was like when you were feeling depressed last June. You know, it was a year ago, for example. I'm just making that up. But if you had strong feelings, you think you remember, but you don't. If you can
Oh,
go
that's
back and access that, and you may even forget what was really setting you off. And you're like,
mm,
oh, yeah, it was this event. And what's interesting too is you'll see if you practice this, you'll be able to track not only how you were, but also how you've grown.
mm, mm,
And that's the missing component, I think, if you're not keeping a record and going back to it, is you really get to celebrate the ways you've changed.
mm, mm,
And you won't remember all of them if you only trust your old noggin.
mhm, mhm.
You'll you'll because you know how we are. We tend to downplay our successes sometimes, or we play up other people's good fortune or our bad luck, or you know, we distort things in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And so if you have this honest record, you can correct that story to some degree and also see like, wow, that's that thing I was really worried about. I don't even think about it anymore
Mm, yeah,
because either
yeah.
you succeeded or it was something you didn't need to worry about anyway.
Right.
And of course, we get that in the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus is like, why are you worried about stupid things and don't worry about tomorrow? But we are. And so you get that little reminder of, oh, yeah, I was all worried about this thing 2 months ago and then it got canceled anyway, or it turned out just fine, which is that ongoing lesson to quit worrying because it doesn't really do much. It does a little good, but not very much.
What was that quote you told me uh, previously about like worrying is facing problems twice or something like that?
Yes, yes. Someone said that to me, yes. If you worry about a bad thing and it does happen, that means you suffer it twice. And why would you want to do that?
Right, right. Yeah, that makes sense. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Now, at some level, worry is okay because it does prepare. Like, what if I forget my shoes? Well, you don't want to forget your shoes for your gym trip, so you set them by the front door. So worry has a little place, but it's only like 10% of what we think it needs,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
I
the
want.
story of your life, you get to write it if you really get to see it if you're writing it and if you're
Hmm.
tracking it.
Hmm. Hmm. And there's power in creating that narrative that tells us who we are.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me think about. I mean, I know we're not talking about this per se, but journaling
Mm-hmm.
makes me think about kind of the role of journalism in
Mm.
kind of our collective storytelling as well. And I mean that's good journalism at its best. Kind of helps us to do as a society what you're talking about journaling doing for ourselves. That
Oh,
of
right.
accurately
Yes.
accurately as much as we can remembering the past, right? Like if we could say,
Yeah.
oh, back then things were different or whatever as a society, and it takes good journalism to be able to say no, it wasn't like that, or yes, it was like that, or just
Mm-hmm.
to in the absence of accurate journalism, we lose that capacity as a society too to kind of look back. Yeah, yeah, that's good.
Mm. Hey, do you journal?
I do, but not nearly to the extent that you do. I have journaled for most of my life,
Well, you've
Um,
journaled more than me then. So in
well,
terms of your span of your life.
but what it is usually is just like 3 or 4 lines in a, a aligned notebook, a rule, or, where I
Hmm.
just kind of, and they're often kind of put in the phrase of in the form of prayer, like
Hmm.
kind of a prayer at the end of the day, just thinking about things that have been going on. I a guiding model for my journaling for a while now that I learned from my friend Chris. I mean, it's nothing unique to me or us. It's just this gratitude journaling. But um, I think as he presented it to me, and I have fallen away from this, but was like, you write down one thing you're grateful for that day,
Hmm.
but then there's this rule that you can't repeat
Hmm.
anything that you've done before.
Hmm.
Um, and for a while, that was a really fun and helpful exercise
Wow.
because after you write, I don't know, food, and then your family, and then
Hmm.
after a while you kind of run out of the really obvious things, and it's I found it a helpful exercise to try to really dig into every day, like, okay,
Mm.
what's something good today that I've never thought about being good before, what
Yeah,
that
it's
I've never
about
thought about the
noticing.
benefit of it being my
You have
life.
to
Yeah,
notice
yeah,
something. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So then you even get into, like, light bulbs and indoor plumbing and
Hmm.
and all this. Um, but I've done that for many years now, and yes, I'd be lying if I said I don't repeat things anymore.
Hmm.
And then I sooner or later I start repeating things. But
Right.
yeah, so that's been my extent. But that's not bullet journaling.
But that's part of it. You certainly
Yeah,
can list, and that's so, it seems a little, I don't know, from outside, a gratitude journal seems like it would be unremarkable in some ways, but it really is quite remarkable because we just don't notice. And we
yeah,
pay
yeah,
attention to negative and crises. And if you if you find yourself looking for the helpers, as Mr. Rogers said, right, when during a crisis, if you can see the good in anything, like it's just a superpower in
yeah,
terms
yeah,
of
yeah,
just being aware of, yeah, that you're alive and able to think and enjoy the world is astonishing.
yeah,
And
yeah,
there's lots of folks that are dead that wish they had that and they don't.
yeah. What's that? To a person with the hammer, everything looks like a nail. Like whatever your,
Yeah.
if gratitude is your
Yeah, that's
tool,
it.
you start looking. You see those things more.
You
Yeah,
see those, and
yeah,
if you're actually tracking them, which is a commitment that you're going to verbalize it, you're going to say it, then yeah, it starts to show up. I've been doing yoga at the YMCA on Saturdays, and she had us one time. She's like, pick a color and now name the things and look for that color this week. And I went
ah,
with purple, and I was like, well, that's
ah.
stupid because then I couldn't think of anything purple. But then a few days later, I saw like a purple flower. I'm like, oh, and it reminded me, like, oh, right. It's just this
That's
nice little callback to connect with the earlier moment, and you start looking for a certain color, or I don't know,
that's so cool.
which
I
is
love
kind of
that.
like a game. Yeah, it is a bit like
It is a
play, right?
game.
It
Yeah,
is
it's
a
a
game.
game.
It's a game.
Yeah, it's that's a playful approach to life. To, like, yeah,
It
okay, my
is
my mission or my secret objective today is to find purple things,
to
or
find purple
to
things in the
find
midst
things
of going to the
to be
grocery store
thankful
and loading
for,
the
or
dishwasher. I'm going to find purple. Yeah,
yeah,
and purple was
yeah.
hard because at the time I was like, I should have done like red. So I'm like, what is purple? I don't know.
Purple is such a delightful color.
It is. It is.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think are we? I know neither one of us are evolutionary biologists, of course, but I'm
Hmm.
trying to think about studies I've read, or are our brains, our hearts, predisposed to focus on the negative, on the. Do you have any thoughts, reflections on that?
I mean, there's that whole school of thought of it does keep us safe. So to me, it's very speculative, but it does make sense that yeah, that keeps looking for the negative is going to keep you alive.
Right.
Like if you think of The Walking Dead or something, watching out for zombies, or in our world, watching out for bears and things that will keep you alive longer than being like, oh, look, a flower, and then the bear attacks you. So probably does have a little survival bit,
Yeah.
but I don't know if that explains it all.
Yeah. 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 That
But
makes sense.
but yeah, you learn if you think of your life as a story, that you and I are a story, we tend to forget the plot. I mean, you'll
Mm.
remember the big moments. You'll say, okay, I graduated, or I got married, or I had a child, or I started this job. So you'll remember certain, but you won't always remember how you were feeling, or think of your life as a book, as a story with chapters. It's so nice to be able to have a sense of the plot. And
Mm.
occasionally just to see that my grandmother had this on her wall. Today is the tomorrow we worried about yesterday, and all is well. She had someone had knit it. I don't know if it
Mm.
was she did it herself or someone else, but that idea of seeing that you've you went through some bad stuff and it all ended up being okay because you're still here.
Today is the tomorrow we worried about yesterday, and all is well.
Yeah,
It sounds like had a cool grandma.
she was kind of cool. She was kind of cool.
Can you? Would you feel comfortable sharing? Can you think of anything? You don't have to. Like some examples of ways that journaling has helped to help you
Mm.
to kind of discover the plot of your life. And if you want, I'm putting you on the spot. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think
We
I'd
can
have
talk
to
about this.
actually be flipping through them. I wish I'd done a little
Yeah.
research to give an example. But you
No.
can
No.
imagine, yeah, you were worried about you missed a bill or something and you're going to have to pay a late fee and it was wrecking your life, right? Because you're going to have to
Yeah.
pay
Yeah.
or something, or you had a big tax bill that wasn't expected and you had to drop $1,000 and and you're really upset. And a couple years later, you probably don't even remember it,
Yeah.
which means, like, okay, you owe more money and it kind of sucks. What are you going to do about it? There's
Right.
nothing, I mean, it's you either hire a lawyer or try to find or an accountant, or you just write the check and groan. But
Right.
why would you worry about it? Like, there's nothing
Yeah.
you can do about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I guess you could go live off the grid or something, become a
Right.
mobster. But so I think it's that sort of bit. It's just realizing that there is a part of our brain that's always looking for problem, especially if you're wired for anxiety like I am. It's often looking for problems so it can be occupied, and you really want to try to tame that because it can create its own problems.
Hmm.
To being a little more circumspect about, yeah, this today's worry might be like the one 3 years ago, and again, it'll be okay.
When you journal, do you think? Well, I guess I'm thinking about my own experience, I guess, but I
Oh, that's all anyone's ever doing, Daniel.
that's true.
It's okay.
That's true. Unlike anyone
I'm not
else,
even listening to you right now.
I find one of the struggle. I love journaling, and I recommend it to. I've recommended it to many people, and it's a helpful spiritual tool, and I'm really ever talking about it. I have found one of the challenges of it for me that might be kind of like, yes, okay, I'm going to, on the one hand, I want to think of something that I'm grateful for, so I want to write down what I'm grateful
Hmm.
for. But then I also write down, I often find myself writing down, the things like you're just saying, like I'm worried about from the day that I feel like I
Hmm.
messed up, everything like that. Does it,
Hmm.
my worries is that sometimes, at least in my experience of it, that I also use it as a lens to think about, okay, what bad happened today? Like what
Hmm.
like naming some bad things that I might not have named without
Yeah.
the practice of it. Again, I don't think that should prohibit us from doing it. I think the value outweighs that risk, but I don't know. Is that something? Does that resonate
Wait,
with
what's
your
the risk
experience,
that you'll name bad things? Why would that be a
or like
risk?
that maybe I name bad things in there that I wouldn't have named necessarily, or even brought to my consciousness without.
But that's better. If you name
Yeah,
it, you can tame it, right?
yeah,
If it's
yeah, yeah.
moored, you're just that's general anxiety or just general, right? But if you can
That's
get
right.
to like,
That's right.
why am I anxious? So yeah, if you can say I am sad today, then you're
Yeah,
going to be a little less sad.
that makes
You're
sense.
still
That makes
sad,
sense.
but you will feel better if you can put a label on it. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's okay. And again, you get to look back at your struggles, and there's seasons in life, and some of life seasons are hard, and that's something to mark in the story of your life, as well as hopefully you're at a point where it's changed or it will change, and then you get to see that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then it makes you grateful for the fact, like, hey, I had this terrible year a few years ago, and now things are so much better, and
For
I
things,
should be
here we
grateful
are
that,
today.
yeah, look what, as well as, you feel bad for other people that have challenges. You're like, oh yeah, I remember being sick with the flu for a week, and it was really terrible. When I go back and look, I was
Yeah.
just writing, I want to die, right?
Right,
You
right,
feel so
right,
sick. Or
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
an example you were asking, we're fortunately at the stage with the kids where they can drive. We've got two drivers out of the three kids, and it's so great. And it was something
Yeah.
that drove me nuts before, always having to get them places,
Mm, mm,
the taxiing service. And
mm.
but it's so easy to take it for granted. Now I'm just used to being able to do what I want again. And I need to be grateful that, hey, this was really hard before, and it eventually, that too came to pass, or that season changed of driving them everywhere. Now I get to enjoy freedom in a way
Yeah,
that's really
yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So bullet journaling, just to get a little more nitty gritty, the idea of it is it's really a rapid logging. It's like a list. So it's getting its name from bullet points. And you don't the recommended method, and if you go online and look YouTube and on the internet, you'll find all sorts of variants. But the guy that started it, his name is Ryder Carroll. And I don't know if he's in witness relocation. It's a very odd name, but Ryder, and then Carroll, like Carroll. But he came up with it to help deal with his ADHD, is what he says. And it helped him to focus. So he came up with this little system of, there's different types of symbols, and you can go a little crazy or just keep it simple. But the idea is you're really just creating little lists for the day and for the week and for projects. So it's real simple, lean, and mean. So you would specifically write, like today is the 12th. So you'd have a piece of paper or a notebook or a journal or index card. You'd write 5-12. And then you would just start logging. Okay, 11 o'clock, record Play Saves the World with Daniel. 7:40 a.m. I did have to take Elliot to school this morning, so take child to school. And then you might write feeling anxious because it's a busy day.
And you do
And
this
then
before the day, or
Mhm.
is it done in retrospect, kind of? Or yeah, yeah, yeah.
you do it throughout the day. It just, you can do, the best, that what they said, what Ryder or Carol would say is the best is to do it in the morning and at the end of the day. But life's messy, so sometimes I might go a few days and I have to catch up, and I didn't enter anything. But it's kind of just tracking what's going on. What are the things that you need to do? Need to go to the grocery store, need to get a haircut. So you track feelings, actions, thoughts. I wonder if I'm overcommitting myself, and why do I always do this? So you might ask questions to yourself. And so it's just a
Okay.
running list of these items, and they don't have to be in any particular order. You're just getting them out of your head. You're getting them onto paper. You don't have to write full sentences. It can be as more detailed as you want. And lots of people like me I use digital stuff too. We've got all bunch of Google calendars, and I've got a digital to-do list. I'd have a hard time only being in a bullet journal. But I use some things in it, and it's interesting. I don't know if you've had this, Daniel. When you write it out by hand, it definitely commits it to memory.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But if it's digital and you type it, it's just so different.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I agree.
Yeah, and
I actually,
the science, they've studied it for note
yeah.
taking.
This might sound a little weird, but actually, I had a revelation just a few years ago. I was writing something on a piece of paper with a pencil in this
Hmm.
very quiet environment, and it all of a sudden struck me. how delightful the sound of a pencil on paper is. Like it was just, just the
Yeah.
sound of the little graphite on the paper, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just so it was delightful. And yeah, there's something, like you said, just very kinesthetic about it. That's just
Hmm.
it felt real and
Yeah.
physical, and it was great. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's a real question of taking the time to write that down, and is it worth it? And yeah, I have found it strangely is, despite the fact that I'm pretty technological and got all these gadgets. I appreciate getting old school like that, being focused,
Yeah.
writing stuff you need to do. And interestingly, what the recommended system is for your to-dos, if you don't accomplish it that day, the next day you have to write it again.
Hmm.
And you're like, well, that's a waste of time. And that's the point.
Mm.
Because the question is, why haven't you done it?
Mm.
And if you
So,
find it, and yeah, if you find you keep dragging your feet, well, then the question is why.
so at some point you can just say, I'm not gonna write it again. I'm just gonna let it
I
go.
admit that I'm never going to do this. I am not going to make this phone call and just mark it off.
That is
Like
good.
delete it. Is that
That is
nice?
good. Yeah, I
Because the
like that.
digital one, you can just add forever. But if you have to write it out every time, it makes you ask yourself, why am I writing instead of doing this?
What I find interesting in our show notes, you also mention, another maybe advantage of the physical page versus a digital page is that, if you don't mind saying more about this, but as I understand it, please say more about it. As I understand what you're saying here is that on a physical page, well, maybe start with digital. With digital, a digital page can go on forever, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
there's no constraint of space. But if you're writing something on a physical page, you're constrained, and that there's maybe some
Yes.
benefit to that. Would you mind saying more about that, please?
Yeah.
Or
Well, you just see, I mean, you're like, God, I'm stressed. I wonder why I'm stressed. And then you're like, well, look how busy I am. And you could see that digitally, but somehow when you're writing it out and you see it as you're saying on a piece of paper, or you flip back and you're like, look how much has been going on in my life.
yeah,
So
yeah,
maybe that's a sign to like make some changes
yeah, yeah.
or cut yourself some slack. It might be a Chick-fil-A week. Like you're just going to be at Chick-fil-A a lot.
Right.
And not try to say, okay, I'm going to, cook meals and I'm going to save the world, because that might not be the week for it. So yeah, there's a sense of constraint, as well as if you have a digital to-do list, and again, I have one, but if you mark it off and you have it erase it, it's like you didn't accomplish anything.
Right.
If you
Right.
have it written and you get to, and the
You can
recommended is
cross it
it's a
off.
little bullet and then you put an X through it when you finished it, and you can do whatever you want, but that's what Ryder Carroll recommends. You get to see like, holy cow, look at all the stuff I did today.
Yeah, yeah,
And you get
yeah.
to
You're right.
take a little mental victory lap. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it's so satisfying to mark it
Oh, it
off and
is.
cross it
It
off.
is.
Versus, you're right. If you just delete it on your to-do list, that you
Hmm.
never see it again. There's no record of you having accomplished that.
And you're just going to put something else on there,
Yeah.
and you are not a machine, right? You're going to need rest and relaxation. You're not an AI. Um,
Have you ever made a to-do list? Because I'm asking for a friend. Because, um, have you ever made a to-do list
Probably.
where you've you already put some things on there that you've already accomplished that day, so that you
Oh,
can
absolutely.
immediately cross it off?
I
Like maybe
think
even
that's
right to
actually
do.
wonderful. I think
Yeah,
it's wonderful because you should
yeah,
give yourself credit. You deserve
yeah,
the credit. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And I do that and do it with bullet journaling. Sometimes, again, I didn't do anything yesterday. And so I catch up. I mean, I didn't enter anything. So I catch up and I'm writing. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I mowed the grass. So,
yeah,
yeah, I deserve points for that. I
yeah,
get a star. I did mow the
yeah.
grass. Yeah. Yeah, but here's the best bit. Here's the best bit. Besides getting it out, kind of vomiting out all the stuff that you've got to do and your little things on your mind, so you don't have to worry about them because you've written them down. And if you go back and look, they'll be safe. But at the end of the day or the next day or something, you're going to give that day a title.
That's cool.
Whatever is the most important thing from that day, and it could be, I was in a great mood today, or it could be, I got that project completed, or it could be, whatever. I don't know. But you're going to Geekway. And then you have a special page in it that's a monthly page for June. And on that, it has, well, for June, 30 lines, and you rewrite the title for that day. And at the end of the month, Daniel, at the end of the month, you go back. And here's the bit with journaling. You don't want to just write and never go back. So at the end of the month, you do a little monthly review and you read all the titles for every day. And that's where you get to see the plot of your life. And at the end of the year, you're going to do it for the whole year. And it's just astonishing, the stuff you'll see. You're like, oh, I forgot about that. Or, oh, yeah, oh, yeah. So you get to see this little plot line of what's going on. So that is actually my favorite bit of bullet journaling. And other people may have other favorite bits. But doing that title, it's just really interesting. Like, what would you title today? What would you verbalize its theme or message or celebration or focus? And what will you think in 3 weeks about that?
How much
That's astonishing.
I love that. How much do you feel pressure to make the titles unique? And I guess I'm projecting. Like I feel like if I did that, I would feel like my worry is I would name most days the same, because it just get like you get up and go to work. I love the idea, but do you encounter that tension or?
I guess on an intuitive level, I just go with my first thought. And you wouldn't want it to be go to work. It would be had a great conversation. Something happened at work, hopefully.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like the noticing. What's the one thing you really noticed today?
Yeah.
You noticed that you were in a good mood, or at work you had a great conversation with someone, and that's what you call it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So it's not, it's whatever has the most meaning to you for that day. It's not a summary, it's the highlight.
So in a physical bullet journal, there would be a page at the beginning of each month.
Right.
Then there's a page for each day of the month.
Yes.
And then maybe like a page.
We do it as you go along. So
year.
you would in June you would have 2 pages really, where one is the titles for the whole month, and one is like a to-do list for the month, like larger projects.
Okay.
Gonna get the oil changed at some point this month. And then you would go forward from there, writing as you go, however much space you need for each day. You don't write ahead of time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Because June 1st may take up 2 pages, and then June 2nd might be 3 lines, and June 3rd, then, so you don't know how many pages each day will take. So you don't pre-fill them out. You do it as you go along.
Okay, so these pages are not pre-printed either. They're not okay.
You can use any notebook. That's the beautiful thing. The bullet journal notebook is great, and I really like it. I think it's well worth it. But you can use anything you want. This is just a way of writing. It's almost like a shorthand or system. So you can use any old notebook or index card you have. You don't spend any money on this.
Yeah, neat.
Which is really beautiful, yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, and part of this, and there's a great quote. Well, let me back up. Before I get to the quote, there's daily logging, there's a monthly, and then, of course, after you finish June, then you would create a July. So once you've done June, you don't want to do July before you finish June because you don't know how much space you'll need. So you're always kind of in it. You're not pre-filling it out too much.
Okay.
But you also could have a special list for a project. Like you're planning to go to Geekway, so you need to, if you're me and you don't live nearby, you're going to buy plane tickets, and you might need to look at where you're going to stay, and you need to remember to pack a certain game in your carry-on luggage. So you might have a list that's special. So you have a Geekway list. And at the beginning, you can have an index and say Geekway page 47. And then next year, when you go to Geekway, you can go back and look at the old list.
Oh yeah. Do you put work things in this bullet journal as well? Like
I do, because it's my whole life, and that's what he recommends. Yeah, you wouldn't want to keep track of. You should just
it's whole life. Yeah.
But some things that it's not. I'd rather make it digital.
Yeah.
So I kind of move between them. I don't have it in both places.
Yeah.
I just live in both.
Yeah. Okay.
So I have, I have a reminder. Our recycling's every 2 weeks. I have a digital reminder, so it just pops up every 2 weeks. Take out the recycling.
Cool. Yeah.
It's not worth it to me to put that in the bullet journal, but you could.
Yeah. Sidebar. I also have an alarm and a reminder that every 2 weeks to take out the recycling. However, we had the lowest level of tornado what's it called? An F1 maybe?
I thought
Is
that was a
F1
racing car.
is F1 the weakest or is it the strongest? Anyway,
I thought that was
maybe
Formula One racing.
is it a Formula One racing?
I don't
Anyway,
know. I don't know what you're talking
it's a
about.
kind of tornado. It's the weakest form of tornado.
That's good.
We had the weakest form of tornado here where I live. Actually, it was just a few blocks. It just went a few blocks from where we live here a week or two ago. We're kind of here in the Midwest. We get a fair number of those. Thankfully, no life was lost from this one, anything like that, and not a lot of damage, but probably some of the most extensive damage it was that this tornado went northeast of the city, and it just seemed like to have a vendetta against recycling. Like it's just like this tornado existed because it hated recycling. It just it just very lightly skipped on the ground
No.
until it hit our city's recycling center,
No.
northeast of the city out in the country, and completely destroyed it. It completely destroyed the recycling center, and then it just kept on, and then it went away. By far, the most damage it did was to destroy our city's recycling center. Now, this city of 110, 20, 50,000 people, we have no recycling, and they are not sure when we'll get recycling again. And maybe it might be like years before we get recycling back in, before they can rebuild this recycling center. That is what they call a tangent.
Right.
And anyway,
Right.
but anyway, so that was
Yeah.
that's a tangent. But
That
yes,
was a go on.
yeah,
That was a go
yeah.
on. It
Anyway,
is funny how the tornadoes do tend to jump around weirdly.
they seem very. It can be very select. Yeah,
Because we've
yeah.
had like a micro burst something storm, and there's just like one little bit of a road that it trashes, and the one street over is totally fine.
Yeah, yeah.
Micro storm of some sort. Yeah, weird.
So reminders about recycling you would not put in the bullet journal, but
Not for Daniel. Not for
okay.
Daniel.
But what you might put in the bullet journal is, hey, a tornado today destroyed our town's recycling center,
And I'm glad no one was hurt.
and I'm glad no one was hurt.
It didn't
Yeah.
hit. It didn't hit me. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so bullet journal is it's fun, and I've tried different things. I guess I've always been curious about systems, and I'm a bit of I like trying out new stuff. So I've tried different little productivity systems, and I'm the kind of person that finds it fun to start a new system.
It's kind of like a game, right?
It is. I
Yeah.
hadn't thought of that. It is a game to sort of see how it works, the software, the system. And I think somewhere along that line, I heard or saw, and then I think YouTube or internet, I just like bullet journal, and I started watching it, and I got intrigued, and I tried it, and then I bought the book that he has. And yeah, I just really appreciate it. It stuck versus other systems have not always stuck. This one, I could find in a year or two, I've changed. But this one stuck for about, let's say, 4 years.
Oh, cool, cool. I'm interested.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was interested to hear how you got started in this. Okay, yeah. So
Yeah, I just kind of
kind of
stumbled
poking around on
upon
the
it.
internet. And, yeah.
Yeah, and what I do like, because it's written, it's you're better to not. Because I'm a perfectionist. If I find a system, I tend to want to tinker with it and make it really sing and have all. If it's electronic, you have all these labels and all this crazy stuff. And it's better for me to really keep it as simple as possible. So this is not very fancy
Yeah, yeah.
by design, because the point of it, you don't want to journal your life away. You want to journal enough to get what you need, but you want to live your life. And I guess there's exceptions for people that are artistic. And if you go online, you'll see people doing really amazing, beautiful bullet journals where they've got, they've drawn all pictures. They created a list of their Florida trip, and they've drawn pelicans and pink flamingos. And that's really cool. Like if they love doing that, that's great. If I felt like I had to do that, it would just make me a little crazy,
Yeah, yeah.
because I would be a perfectionist. I couldn't just do that out of joy. I would do it out of some kind of obligation. So it's good that my handwriting's not neat. It's not perfect. And I have to mark through stuff, and sometimes I can't seem to spell, and you just move on.
Well, yeah, I guess I mean, that's the question I had. Yeah, it's like, when do you do this, and how is it hard to find time to do it? And when do you do your bullet journaling?
Uh, like this morning, I did it once I got back from dropping a kid off at school and cleaned up the kitchen. So it's whenever convenient. But I find if I haven't done it a bit, I've done it enough that I've like, I need to check in and see that. But in theory, I'm spending 30 minutes a day on it,
Okay.
off and on. But there's some days where I don't touch it at all.
And so it's not like something you do like right before you go to sleep at night or something like that, or first thing in the
Occasionally,
morning.
but I guess my days are often so varied. It really depends. But I do find I do find it's almost like an itch to scratch. I want to get back in, and I guess I have enough value in it that I want to keep it going.
And you don't use it as a calendar, right? Like you don't. If you've got a meeting in 2 weeks,
really.
you don't put it. You don't say
Not too
2
much,
weeks
but
from now.
sometimes it is nice. I will sometimes because it locks it in my mind in a way. If I put on Google Calendar, I'll kind of forget till a week before, and I look and I'm like, oh yeah. So sometimes if it's a big deal, like I've got to meet with the Pope again, guy keeps calling me, then
Come on, Pope.
and no, I can't take the job because I'm not even Catholic. So how
I
rude.
I would vote for you.
You're not a cardinal. Can't get into the conclave without a key.
No, that's true. But Missourians, no Cardinals.
Do you?
Woo! Go
Oh,
St. Louis.
yeah.
No, it's just it was a
St. Louis
bad joke.
Cardinals. One
Yeah.
cardinal is the North Carolina state bird.
Really? Here's a
And
question.
that's how old Catholicism is, that when they got here and they saw that bird, they're like, that looks like a cardinal of the church. So
That's
they
what
call
I
it
was. That was going to be my question. Which came
Yeah.
first, the cardinal
Yeah,
bird
no,
or
it
the
was
cardinal
the church, the
conclave?
cardinal of the church came first.
Really? And they got to, and then folks,
Yeah.
and so Europeans saw these little red birds with little red hats on them and said, "That looks like a
That looks like
a
Cardinal Richard
cardinal
over there.
from the conclave."
Yeah.
Interesting.
I know.
I didn't know that. I was
They
going
do
to
have a lot of
ask.
style, those Catholics. Good colors. I do
Yeah.
get jealous.
Yeah. That also explains then why we have birds around here called archbishops. I don't know. Whatever, I was going to go with that. I want to stop.
But along this line, do you know why it's called a ladybug?
No.
Because it has 8 dots on its back, and that number was associated with the Virgin Mary.
Really?
So it's Our Lady. It's the Virgin Mary. Yeah,
Why is
the
8
ladybug.
associated with Mary? I wonder.
I forget. It's some medieval thing.
Interesting.
I don't know. I don't think there's anything biblical. I think it's some old tradition.
Isn't it like a new
Numbers.
That's like a new symbol of new creation, right? Because like it's like 7 is complete, right? And so then when you get to 8,
Maybe.
it's like
Yeah.
you're beginning again. Like why I think baptismal fonts traditionally have 8 sides or octagons because it's new creation.
It's something with an octagon. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe it's just her lucky lottery number. She just did really well on 8.
I heard that was that was the lucky number. Yeah, yeah. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's bullet journaling, and I don't get artistic with it. I keep it clean and neat, but I have started getting stickers occasionally. Like I
That's
got
cool.
into the TV show Yellow Jackets, and I found you could buy someone made a sticker on Etsy for $5, so I bought it and stuck it in there.
That's
So
cool.
when I look back, I'm like, oh yeah, I like this show, and I went to this brewery, or if I get a sticker from Geekway, I might put it in there, so it kind of dresses it up. That's the
I
extent
like
of
that.
my artistry. Yeah, it's
I
almost
like
like a little
that.
scrapbook,
Yeah,
but
You know,
not
'cause
too much.
it seems like everywhere you go these days, there's a chance to buy a sticker, and I
is
want to buy
weird.
stickers, but I don't know what to do with them.
Everywhere.
But maybe that's what I could do. I could put it
Yeah,
in the journal.
all your Apple stickers, you just fill it up with
So many Apple stickers.
so many Apple stickers.
Yeah.
Anywho, that's what I got. That's what I got. What are
That's
your
great.
comments, thoughts?
Thank you so much. No, I really I love this. This is really helpful, and
Aw.
I'm grateful for you sharing this important part of your life and your journey with me and with our listeners, and I'm going to look into it. Yeah, thank you, Kevin. This is really
No thanks.
yeah. It sounds like a really helpful exercise. it
Well, this
got me.
challenged me to think of it as a form of play. I guess it's a discipline, but play can be discipline too. You
Yeah,
play chess to get better at it, that kind of thing.
yeah. Well, the meetings of these two worlds, play and journaling, I got me thinking through as we were talking. One question that has kind of coming in and out of my head is, on the one hand, it gives us a sense of accomplishment by like, here's I've accomplished this today, da 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 da, which I do all the time too with like to-do lists and stuff. And what I find myself wondering is how does that interact with what we've talked about in previous episodes and often about, play as kind of this freedom from thinking that our value is derived from productivity.
Right.
But we also say that play, using that Bernard Suits definition, is the overcoming of unnecessary obstacles. And I wonder if the listing of what we've accomplished in that day maybe falls more under the category of overcoming unnecessary obstacles as opposed to value derived through productivity.
Right.
Just the delight in overcoming, because my hunch is not to pass judgment on what you put in there, but I know for me most of the things I put on my to-do list, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, they're unnecessary obstacles, right? They're not things that
Right.
are,
Oh, I love that. Yeah. To see it as more of an obstacle. And I think the danger is, do you derive your value from it? So I'm a good person if I get a lot done.
Right.
That's the trap you want to avoid. So it comes down to your intentions. Are you doing it because it's an obstacle to just get it done? You got to pay your taxes. You got to mow your grass. You got to go to the grocery store. And so it's just a thing you have to do, and you need to get it done, but you don't derive your value from it.
Yeah,
So I think it has to do with the intention.
yeah.
So your value hopefully is derived from your playfulness, which is, you can log in. Hey, I got to play this new game, or I got to go skeet shooting for the first time. It was really fun. So you're noting the things, and you could give that a different symbol. You could give it a smiley face in terms of, instead of a bullet point. And how many smiley faces did you get this week?
You could get smiley face stickers and put them in like for the.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Cool.
Well,
Cool.
Kevin, this is great. Thank you so much. And if somebody wants to find out more about bullet journaling, any resources you'd recommend?
Just go on YouTube.
Okay.
And YouTube and the internet, but also email us and I'll answer questions. Glad to.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Well,
And that is info@playsavestheworld.com, correct?
info@playsavestheworld.com. .org. .org. Sorry.
.org.
.org.
.org. We've had some changes.
Yeah. Info@playsavestheworld.org or playsavestheworld@gmail.com. Either one of those will find us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, as we often say, carrier pigeon. Or
Carrier pigeon works. Or
sending out a ultraviolet radio wave that can be detected by the human soul.
Instagram, which I believe is on the internet now.
Instagram is.
If you have the internet, you can get to Instagram.
It's on the interwebs. You can.
Yep.
I've heard of it.
Yes. All right, Daniel, until next time. And I can't wait to see you IRL in real life. See you in a few days.
Yeah, thanks. See you then, Kevin. Thanks so much.
Okay.
And thanks, listeners. We really appreciate your spending time
Thank
with
you,
us.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.